This video was made primarily for people who experience anxiety within its normal limits but require a little bit of support for the regulation. This video is not for people who may require therapeutic or medical intervention to deal with anxiety. The young monks in a monastery had become used to feeding the deers in the nearby forest. One particular evening, the senior monk in the monastery chased away the deers and showed a lot of anger. The young monks asked him why, because their path is one of compassion, and they wanted to know why he did not show compassion to the deers. And he then let them know that the compassion that he could show to the deers was by chasing them away into the forest, because they needed to adapt. The deers would not have the sense of discernment between the monk and a hunter. Anxiety is a normal human emotion, form of fear, which is a protective emotion. Fear in itself was required in the evolutionary process to help us understand how to deal with difficult or dangerous situations. Anxiety in that sense is also an extremely protective emotion. Anxiety in a regulated, balanced form can make us smarter because it enhances our ability to analyze, to research, and to resort to cause-effect relationships and critical thinking. Anxiety can also be beneficial because it helps us to become aware of self-preservation. For example, several years back, I was working with a group of people whose core values were very different from mine. I would wake up with anxiety every day. It was, in a sense, trying to protect me from the fall that actually happened at the end of that relationship. Anxiety helps direct attention to the areas of our life that require our focus. When acted upon purposefully, anxiety brings about a balance in my life because it helps me look at the areas of my life that trigger discomfort and helps me to focus my attention to be able to reframe or rework through certain patterns. Anxiety helps us reach our fullest potential and to explore our core values. In some ways, anxiety becomes a great motivator because it helps us to achieve a lot under pressure. Anxiety often gives us the energy required to initiate a task, to sustain energy and attention on a particular task, and to be able to complete a task while realizing our highest potential. The next story I have is of a man who was afraid of his own shadow and the sound of his own footsteps. To escape these, he started running really fast, and the faster he ran, the shadow caught up faster and the sound of the footsteps became louder and louder. All he needed to do was to slow down and sit in the shade of a tree to be able to escape both the shadow and the sound of the footsteps. Different people deal with anxiety in different ways. The most common patterns, of course, are workaholism and overworking, overscheduling, perfection, because it gives an illusionary sense of control, procrastination, because it helps us deal with the performance anxiety that comes associated with any task that we need to complete. Some people resort to distractions and addictions, including binge watching and substance abuse. I've seen many people resorting to people pleasing, going out of their way to get a good name amongst other people because that helps them to tide over the anxiety temporarily. But the most common pattern, and the one that's most overlooked, is physical and physiological distress, which becomes illness over a period of time. I've seen a lot of doctors telling patients, reduce the stress in your life. Instead of actually dealing with the anxious patterns that contribute towards the illness, many people give up the activities that make them feel whole and complete. This is when I say slow down, to reduce the sound of the footsteps and the shadow, what it really means is to shine a light on the thought patterns and triggers that actually cast a shadow and increase the anxiety. When the great library of Alexandria burnt down to the ground, one book, which was not of great value, escaped the fire. A person who did not have too much money was able to buy that book for a few coins. He took the book, and when he was reading through it, he realized that it carried the secret of the touchstone. The touchstone had this special quality of converting any ordinary metal into gold. The touchstone would look like an ordinary pebble, and the only difference between a touchstone and an ordinary pebble would be the temperature. The touchstone was supposed to be warmer than ordinary pebbles. He sold all his belongings, and with the little bit of money that he had, he went to the ocean. As he sat on the seashore, he started picking up the pebbles one by one. If they were cold, he would toss them into the ocean, and he knew that by doing this, at one point he would reach the warm touchstone and he would be able to possess it and bring it back home. For many days, for many weeks, for many months, he picked up stones, pebbles that were cold, and kept tossing them back into the ocean. It came to a point where on one particular day, he picked up a stone, a pebble that was extremely warm. Though his mind knew it was the touchstone, the force of habit made him toss it back into the ocean. The reason I'm using the story is because many times, driven by anxious patterns, many of us tend to throw away those great opportunities in our life that can make a difference. For example, specific relationship triggers cause me a lot of anxiety. I give up on a relationship that could have been perfect and beautiful in my life. Sometimes I throw away a job opportunity that could be life-changing. The question I would ask, what opportunities in my relationships, in my career, in my learning did I throw away because of my anxious patterns? What amends can I make right now? A very poor couple made ends meet by taking tuitions for the children in the community. They hardly made enough money for their own meals, but they took great care of the one white horse that they had. So at one point, a great sage visited the couple and they took good care of him. The sage looked into their future and he realized that if they gave up the horse that they had, their future held a lot of promise. So the wise sage guided them to sell the horse and to establish a small school in the money that they got. And then every time they would get a horse, to sell the horse and to develop the school. The couple was a little puzzled by the advice, but since they believed him, they sold the horse and established a school. The people in the village were very touched by the generosity of the couple, who gave away their only possession to be able to serve the community and the children in the community, and therefore they put together enough resources and gifted them another horse. The moment the couple got the new horse, they sold it and again developed the school, and this happened several times. Many of us hold on to our anxieties like that white horse. So I would ask you, which horse would you give up right now? What is it that I'm holding on to? What pattern am I holding on to? Am I ready to let go of that horse that's holding me back? For this, there are two sets of techniques. When we are unable to let go of something, we start focusing our entire attention and focus on a physical process like breathing. What it does is that it brings our entire focus back into the physical body, and that way we are able to stop ourselves from overthinking and trying so hard to control the future. Another technique is called a 3-3-3, which is what are the three things that I can see, and specifically focus a lot of attention on that. 3 things that I can hear, and 3 parts of my body that I can move, and then you sort of move your ankle, you move your wrist, move your head, or any 3 parts that you wish to. Focuses our attention away from the future and brings us to a grounded now. The second set of strategies are what we call cognitive strategies or thought-based strategies. Once we brought our entire attention to the physical state, we then look at how we react to situations. So it could be from the fright, flight, freeze or fawn responses, and move towards the response. Identify one area in your life that triggers off a lot of anxiety. It could be a relationship. The second step that you can look at is what triggers off the anxiety there. Is it because I'm worried about the validation that I need to receive from people? Is it because I'm inherently unable to trust a person? Is it because I believe that I'm not lovable? So look at the core trigger there. Once you're able to identify the trigger, you need to see what are your typical reactions in that particular situation and how you would like to reframe them. To move from a reaction to a response, you need to be able to become aware, accept what can be changed and what needs action, and also accept what cannot be changed or controlled by you. The most important is to take action, but make sure that your action is broken down into as many tiny steps as you can, that can be worked upon on an everyday basis. Moving on from letting go, the second is a practice of uncertainty. When we accept uncertainty, we become more aware of the playful, joyful aspect of ourselves, which is very childlike, that's able to adapt to situations with a lot more curiosity and exploration, and that helps to override the anxiety that we may experience. Playfulness helps us move away from needing to control the outcome. Recovery is often stunted because we personalize everything. We believe that it happens only to us, or because we believe it's pervasive, it's affecting more areas of our life than it actually is. And 3, because we believe in permanence, that it's going to happen all the time, it's going to affect my entire life. When we focus on the what is, it's easier for us to understand that the situation is not targeted at us personally. The second, when we look at what is, we start realizing that it's not affecting all areas of our life or too many areas of our life, but probably 1 or 2 areas of our life, and we may need to focus our attention there to be able to reframe it. What is of permanence, we realize that everything changes. When we focus on the here and now, this illusion of permanence is replaced by the ability to remain mindful in the present moment. When it comes to proactive strategies, a calm morning ritual goes a long way in helping people regulate anxiety greatly. You can make time to calm yourself before you start your day, prioritize your tasks for the day, build around relationships, and also to focus your entire attention on a single task, complete it with your entire effort, and then move on to the next. It helps greatly. The master showed students a large rock on top of a hillock, and he asked them, "Is that rock heavy?" And the students turned to him and said, "Yes, master, the rock is heavy." And the master smiled very mischievously and he said, "Not if you're not carrying it." With anxiety, you may need to realize that you tend to carry more than you really need to. When you focus on the what is, it's a great opportunity to realize that you don't need to be everything for everyone. You don't need to do everything all the time. The most beautiful way to deal with anxiety, in my experience, is to be able to live this moment completely, free from the past, free from the future. When you're completely able to explore this moment in its entirety and engage with it with all your skills, potential, and your intelligence, it becomes much easier to regulate anxiety. Regulating anxiety begins and ends with focusing on the what is and never on the what if. Every time you notice that you're moving to the what if and the anxiety gets triggered, please bring your focus back into the present, starting with a physical or a physiological process and slowly moving to the cognitive process. I hope this video was useful for you.